And welcome to the podcast, guys, with Rob and Nando. We are going to get into a reaction video. Before we do so, make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Go up there and hit that subscribe button. Don't be shy. We are here. I'm battling a little bit of a scratchy throat, so we are here to give you as much as we can and help you guys out in the dating world. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram, the podcast guys _, on TikTok, the podcast guys _, and the podcast guys 5 on X. We're also on Rumble, the podcast guys _. We're making our way on there slowly but surely. So let's get into today's reaction video.
Dating has become so bad nowadays, people don't even come up to one another at bars. And I've realized this because I have my older family members, they'll ask me, they're like, Julia, why can't you find someone nice? Dating in my day and age was just we came up to one another and we got married in 2 to 3 weeks. I don't understand what's so difficult about it. You know what I have to say to them? We have literally lost the plot on interacting with people so badly that now we have self-driving cars. You get into a taxi nowadays, we used to call them taxis. You get into a taxi and you don't even have a driver because we don't even have the ability to connect with a driver. We can't even say hello to a stranger anymore, let alone have a nice dinner with someone, let alone come up to someone at a bar. So if you know someone who is single, who is struggling in the single journey, honestly, maybe have a conversation with them because we're not having conversations with anyone. No one's connecting with people in real life. This is a epidemic. It's crazy. And that is why it's taking so many people so long to find their people.
All right. So another dating in 2024 is tough, but this is because the interactions in person aren't happening. If they're happening, they're very, very rare and on occasion. So what are your thoughts on what she said?
Yeah, so kind of to summarize the point of her video, she's saying that people are becoming less and less connected. We've said it before, men aren't cold approaching. People in general aren't really interacting. When they go out, they only speak to the group that they go out with. If somebody goes out to a bar with 2 or 3 friends, that's it. They just talk to that circle of friends. And what she's saying is the whole idea of going out and socializing at bars, lounges, restaurants, it's kind of like a dying trade. And it's unfortunate because traditionally these type of places were meant as social gatherings. It was a place people went to socialize, and it's not really like that anymore. Now it's just people still go there, but they go there with a friend or two and they just talk to their friends. So one of the biggest challenges, if you think about it nowadays, what's one of the biggest challenges with dating in general for both men and women? It's meeting new people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And she mentioned, of course, as you said, not interacting with people in person. She also compared it to self-driving cars when you get into the taxi and there's no driver, because basically that's what it feels like, right? Even if someone goes and takes an Uber, are you having a conversation with your Uber driver just to say, hello, what's up, how's your night? That's not happening much. And then imagine trying to take that to another level when you're trying to meet someone in person and randomly cold approach somebody. And it's tough. It's not happening much because it's ingrained in people's minds that I'm afraid to do this because I'm afraid of the outcome. If I go up to this person, what's going to be the outcome of this situation? More guys than women. But again, I've said it in the past on various occasions, women should give signs to men on whether or not they want to be approached. Give a look, give a smile, look back and forth a couple of times, maybe give a wink, really give some sort of sign like, hey, come up to me, come talk to me. But, there's places like the bar that's tough to go up to a woman, or just saying hello to a stranger. It's weird nowadays to go up to a stranger, for people to go up to a stranger and say hello.
And that's the key thing. It is weird. It feels weird. let's not forget, we were conditioned for 2 years plus to social distance, to cover our faces. Nobody was interacting from like 2020 to like 2022. I think a lot of people forgot about that, but let's be real. Things didn't even start to feel socially normal till maybe 2023. Now people are like going out to concerts, festivals, like nothing happened. But there was a good couple year period where it was really weird. We were being literally conditioned to what do they call it? Socially distant. So I think that also took an effect on it, because you're right. It does feel weird. It used to not feel weird. Like, I'll give you an example. I used to like to go and eat at restaurants. Now I prefer to just get the food and eat at home. Like, something feels different about it. And I think that's a part of the reason is that people need to become comfortable with it again for that to start happening again.
There's a disconnect because we were so unplugged.
Yes.
Around those years, those COVID years of 2020, 21, 22, and I would say even 23, early 23. And to get that connection back again, to get that spark back again, it's been tough. A lot of people aren't as confident now as they were prior to when that occurred. And as the young lady in the video said, there's some good points that she made. It's tough to be able to interact. And without being able to interact, it's going to take longer to find that significant other, to find that person that you want to be with for the long term. And it is, like she said, it's like an epidemic. It's happening a lot.
This is something that without a doubt is affecting both men and women. We're in our 30s. There's a lot of people that are single in their 30s. Some people, they're just nowhere near getting into a serious relationship, never mind marriage or, any serious commitment. And I think a large part of that is that they're having a hard time meeting people. It's not necessarily that they're not going out, because people go out all the time, but what's happening when they're going out? Are they meeting a couple strangers? Are they talking to a couple strangers that night? Probably not. They're probably going out with their friends, sticking with that group of friends. And, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but over the course of years, if you don't meet new people, if you don't interact with new people, and let's be real, to meet somebody that you're compatible with, that you're attracted to, that you may potentially want to date, you have to filter through a good amount of people nowadays. It's like a numbers game. Like, you do have to, a part of dating is meeting strangers over and over again until, you go on a date or two. So what are your options, right? You can either meet people in person or you can meet them online. We already know dating apps are kind of hit or miss. Some people have some results with them, some don't. But there's a lot of down. The upside to dating apps is, you could filter through a lot of people, and you could do it from the comfort of your house or your bed. But the downside is number one, you're doing it all through text. You don't see the person face to face. You don't see their personality. You can't vibe with them at all. It's like there's only so much you could convey through text, right? Plus, women are very flaky. There's catfishing. You don't really know what you're getting. I prefer to meet people in person.
The best way is to meet people in person. The only thing is that I can see why people have the difficulties that they currently have is because you want to make a good first impression on that person, or that person will flake on you, or if you don't like something about them, you may flake on them. It goes both ways. There's many people in the past that have met someone else. It's happened to us in the past. And even recently, meet someone, not even to date, just to make a connection, see if you can have some sort of working relationship or friendship moving forward. That person doesn't like one or two things that you may have said, or a couple of things that they observe of you, that they don't know you yet, so they shouldn't be judging, but they observe, and then you try to reconnect with them later on, and they just disappear.
And that's the problem, is you're not going to create a genuine connection through texting. You may generate some interest. I think dating apps and texting is great for setting up a date. For the logistics of it, I think it's fine. Just text like, hey, let's meet Friday. But you're not going to really vibe with somebody or get to know them, get any genuine interest going through an app. That happens in person. I mean, it's been that way since the beginning of time. We're not programmed to connect with people through an app. This is a relatively new thing. If you think about it, in history, this has only existed. Like, when did social media really become as common and if we're talking about like strictly like, the whole idea of DMing, it's only been, relevant for the past 10 years. Prior to that, everybody used to meet up in person, right?
Absolutely. And it goes to show that now these interactions being online more and more consistently, and it seems like it's just going up from here, the more afraid people are to interact in person. Because it's easier online. It's easier to even take a rejection online versus in person.
Correct.
People are really afraid to talk to one another. And I don't know if it's just what's in the air or if it's just that disconnection of those years of people not going out and interacting and now going back and trying to restart again and trying to go back to what they were used to, or breaking a bad habit or an old habit. Because you have to meet people online. I mean,
of course, that's the new way, right?
That's the current way. That's the 2024 way.
Yeah.
That's been the way for many years now. But to break that habit is tough. And a lot of people go out, they can try to talk to somebody, but they're just going to have a tough time accepting the result of it. And the result can be really good. And that's why people should break out of that shell, go out, talk to people, and it doesn't have to be at a bar or club or at a restaurant. You go to college, right? You're at work, you connect with people. You go to networking events, you connect with people, you meet people. And it starts from there. And you build some sort of partnership or working relationship. And then I'm sure there's extracurriculars where you can go out for a drink or go out for a dinner. Could be together with the group and you interact with a couple of people and you grow the relationship from there. So that's one way. There's also friends, right? Get a group of friends together, some people that you may not know in that group, and meet them. Make it comfortable for yourself if you need to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the best strategies for single people in 2024 is probably going to be to look for any opportunity to join any type of group activities. Because like you said, some people may have no interest in even going to a bar or something or a club, right? Anything that involves group activities and meeting strangers, I find that like if you meet people through friends or through a group that you're comfortable in, it's always your anxiety is going to be a lot lower than if you just go straight out to some public setting and like say, okay, I know nobody here. Let me try to, some people are good at it. They're more comfortable with it. But anybody that has like social anxiety, they feel uncomfortable, you're always going to have an easier time joining a group that has mutual friends, and then it becomes a lot easier to interact with people.
100%. But also, aside from that, people should try to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. Sometimes you really have to test yourself. Because if you don't test yourself, that's how you don't grow. If you're able to break through that wall and go out and talk to a stranger, say hello. You're walking around outside, you see somebody walking their dog, and, a guy's running and a girl's coming with her dog, and you say, hey, can I pet your dog? Very cute dog. And, that's how you interact right there. And then you start having a conversation, get her name, and have it take off from there. But people aren't doing that because they're afraid of being called a creep or just being.
There's a lot of social anxiety in general. It's a popular topic. People are anxious around crowds of people. People are anxious approaching. Men are definitely anxious around cold approaching women. And there's a lot that they're concerned about, like you said, getting called a creep, being embarrassed, being rejected. I think a good starting point is to just start getting in the habit of going out and socializing in general.
I think it's good to try it out. And if you fail, it's not like it's the end of the world.
It always seems like a big deal, and then like the next day or later that you're not even going to think about it.
There's guys, even stuff that we've been through, even stuff that the best of the best out there, dating experts, have been through.
Absolutely.
They still go through failures. We still fail, and we get back up, and you try again. But that's where our successes come, because the more times you try, you get your failures out of the way, you're also going to have your successes. So just because one woman decided not to even take a shot at that working relationship and then see where things went from there, just not even dating. We're talking about someone maybe that you wanted to partner up and work on some project together. You weren't even hitting on her, and she flaked out of nowhere for no reason. Who knows? Again, she may have judged you, whatever the case is. You meet someone the first time and you talk to them, and maybe you think about them a certain way. And you're like, I don't want to deal with this guy or these people anymore. That's fine. Or if it's in the dating realm of things, then you went up to a girl and you said, hey, I like your dog, if she was with the dog, or hope you're having a nice day. What's your name?
Basically, you're starting the interaction with something indirect, just like you're not even necessarily conveying interest. You're just starting the conversation.
Right. And even if she didn't take that as, an opportunity for a date and it didn't work out, oh, thank you, have a nice day too, and she moves on and you move on. Hey, that's a fail, but you learn from it, right? Every one of them count. You have to try. And eventually you'll run into that person where you'll tell them, hey, how are you? I saw that you're walking across town today and I wanted to say hello. And then she might say, oh, hi, how are you? I like your sunglasses that you're wearing, or I like the color of your shirt, whatever the hell it is. And then things can take off from there. And then, boom, you have that connection. You met someone. Now you can build off from there. Hopefully they're not someone that just comes and goes, that flakes or whatever. And that's how it works. But the point here is that you have to try, fail a few times, because of course you can't give your all to every person. You give a little bit to each one, and you'll be able to strike on a couple, and it'll work out and take off from there. So take advantage of your successes and put aside your failures, because your failures helped you get those successes, helped you get to where you are now.
Basically, what she's describing in this video, it's a sign of like the changing times. Like she mentioned at some point that older people always ask like, oh, why can't you find anybody nice? And I think we've all heard that from our family, our parents, where they're like, oh, why don't you just meet a nice girl? And they don't understand, because they're from a completely different era. They have no idea what it's like to be 20, 30 years old in this era, because it's completely different times. So I think a big part of this is we live in completely different times. This is like post-COVID, post-social conditioning to self-isolate. But at the same time, the part that we can't control is, like you said, socializing more, getting in the habit of talking to people more, breaking through that like social barrier. And then it just becomes more natural and less weird. Look, all of us after COVID, even doing basic things felt weird. Going to that restaurant for the first time, going to a bar. You remember those days where you went to a restaurant and it was like you had to sit at your table, you weren't allowed to leave, you had to QR code the things. So we went through a couple of years of that, and I think that has definitely played a key role in it. Part two is we have all been conditioned to now stare at our phones, so we're focused here, not in the outside world. That's part two. But I think the part that we can control is being aware that it's happening. And I think this is really to answer her question, like why it's like that nowadays, is because everybody's focus has shifted from the outside world to their phone. And like she mentioned, that now you get an Uber driver, and you might not even necessarily have a driver. Wait till AI takes off. It's gonna get worse. So
yeah, due to what we've been through the past handful of years, we've been wired a certain way. What we have to do as individuals is rewire ourselves, so we're back to what we used to be, where we could go up to a person and interact with them and not be scared to be told off or called a creep or whatever it is people are scared of when they think of going up to a person. So it's just a matter of time that things will turn around and change. But you can't really just depend on dating apps, but a lot of people are. I have a statistic here that based on a study, about 50% of couples meet online. But the thing is that meeting genuine? Is that meeting online? Okay, we meet online. Now we connected. Now we meet in person. Is that a genuine connection? Versus when you go out, meet a person, in public. It could be a connection through friends, or it could be a cold approach, a random approach, just out of nowhere. So to me, I've always thought the natural way is the better way, is the healthier way, versus the online way, which is not as authentic as it would be in person in real life.
100%. Plus, anybody that, for example, isn't used to socializing in general, yeah, you might meet somebody on social media, but the moment you meet in person, things are going to be weird. They're going to be awkward. You might be nervous or anxious. You get what I'm saying? So socializing is important regardless of whether you prefer to do it online or in person, because once you meet that person through the app, you're going to have to meet in person, have an hour-long conversation at that dinner or date anyway, right? By socializing, I see how people use online dating as a great tool, because why? You could filter through a bunch of people. You can technically DM a few people at once and schedule a few dates. If somebody flakes, you have a backup. So it could be used the right way, but you still have to be able to socialize in person.
Yeah.
And I think, and like you said, I think you have a much higher chance of having something genuine in person.
I think cold approaching needs to come back.
Yeah.
Cold approaching needs to come back. And for women, if women like a guy, they have to give him signs and not play these games. They have to cut the games out. Because whether they realize it or not, they're losing. They complain that men don't come up to them, that men play games, that men do this, and that. Give the signs to the guy, or even say hello. You, by saying hello to a guy, is going to give him that sign, that entry, where he can start and take off the conversation and eventually ask you out. Take you out to a dinner, take you out for a drink, take you out for a movie, take you out for a walk in the park, whatever it is. But do something if you want a guy to come up to you. And that's the problem, where women typically don't go up to men at all. You know, it's very rare. You have that, 2-3% that do. I think it could be more now, just by the way things are with women acting more masculine and men acting more feminine, which needs to really switch around as well. But also with men not knowing whether or not they should go up to women. So women, if they're not going to go up to men, which likely most of them aren't, then they have to do something to get a man to come over to them. They might not be waving their arms like, "Hey, come over here, come to me." They might not be doing something crazy like that. But those subtle looks, those subtle signs, and focusing in that direction towards that guy, positioning yourself towards that guy, that'll get you from being single to eventually having your significant other, to being in the relationship you want to be in.
100%. And that's something that she kind of skipped past in that video. Is like, she kind of touched on like how people in general aren't approaching each other. But yes, that's true. People in general aren't interacting as much socially as they used to be in public settings. But one thing I think she could have thrown in there that she ignored is that it's a lot more intimidating for men to approach women in public, and women could just sit there and like deny guys all day long. You know what I'm saying? Women could just, they don't have to do anything. I think women are used to not having to do anything because they're there to just get free attention from guys. And they're very likely to turn down a lot of guys nowadays based on their standards. So that just adds to the anxiety.
And I think that women are hurting themselves with regards to instant gratification compared to distant gratification. Right now, there's women that want to be those independent boss babes, that they're making money. We met a girl recently, not to be named, but she makes $25K, $30K a month. Great, good for her. Very happy for you. But is that going to be something that you're happy with in the long run, right? She mentioned that she had a boyfriend, doesn't have a boyfriend anymore. You're doing these things now as you go from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s, are you going to be truly happy with yourself in your house or apartment with all the money in the bank, but nobody to share it with? So this mentality where I have to just focus on myself, me, 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 me. Yes, to a degree, you have to be selfish. Nowadays, everybody has to watch out for themselves, men and women, without a doubt. But with this complaint of women saying that, well, I'm always single, or guys play games, or guys are flaky, this and that, no guy is going to take you seriously based on your circumstance and your situation. If a guy can see that you have plenty of options, then they're going to avoid that type of woman.
They're not even going to even bother.
Yeah, they're going to go for the woman that doesn't have as many options. You know, if you're on the dating apps and you have 100 guys swiping right versus not being on the dating app and meeting a couple guys in person, you look better. That woman that's meeting that guy in person looks better than the guy on the dating app, the woman on the dating app. The woman that's making, 30, 40, 50K a month, good for her. Not going to hate on that. Go out and make your money, but then you can't have your cake and eat it too with, well, I want a certain guy with all these standards and to make as much money than me or more. It's going to be tough to get. So in one way you have to accept what comes your way. If not, you have to accept being single. It's one or the other. So,
and that's another thing. A lot of these women are keeping themselves single by having that approach. Like, oh, I make so much, and I know my standard and all that stuff. Fantastic. But if 10 years went by and you just slept around and you haven't locked anyone in, but that's a topic for another video.
Yeah, what I was getting to with all that is that that's an intimidation factor for men. If you're able to put yourself out there and make it less challenging for men, men are seeing this woman, oh, she's doing great. She has this job, she has this career, but I'm unapproachable, then it's going to be tough for you to lock down a guy for the long term. And you can be working at your job and your career and everything can be going fine and dandy, but later on in life, you're going to find yourself alone. So be open. Be open to opportunities because
men need to approach more and women need to be more open to being approached.
Yeah.
Simply put.
Yeah, guys are trying, but guys are also have been and are continuing to give up because of the circumstances. So,
yep.
Both sides have to do better. So on that note, we are going to end it here. You guys make sure that you subscribe on YouTube. Again, I'm fighting through a little scratchy throat here for you guys. We're here working hard for you. We have some guests coming up soon, so be ready for those podcasts coming up. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, the Podcast Guys _, as well as on Rumble, the Podcast Guys 5 on X. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.